The Blackstone, Endless Side Quests. Loading complete.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Blackstone Endless Side Quest, doing all the fetch quests so you don't have to. Today in my adventuring party and Meat Shield, I have with me Kimmer as always. How you doing, sir?
I've been doing pretty good, man. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I know it's been a hot minute, but we're back again, and this time we're going to try to stay on topic. I know we do like doing our chaos, so why don't you introduce the topic of the week this week for us?
Yeah, of course. The topic we're going to talk about is it's more anime. So if you guys love the anime talk, we're here. We're going to talk about some of the iconic old anime that was been rebooted or remade, whether that be currently releasing or past one that's already complete. But that's what our topic's going to be, and we're gonna sit here, compare it, each one that we've seen, and kind of give our thoughts about it.
Yep. So before we get into like specific animes, what are your thoughts on the reboots and remakes? Now we know Hollywood is doing a really shit job at rebooting, remaking virtually everything.
Right.
There's a couple of hidden gems here and there. Notable mention would be like Scott Pilgrim. The animated series looks fantastic. It has the cast from the movie, which I'm down for. But most of the reboots, remakes are very hit and miss, with one or two outlying gems here and there. But for the most part, Ocean's 11 was a remake. The remake was actually really good. The sequels, not so much. But when it comes to anime, most of the time, it's a return to the manga being complete.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't complete when it originally aired, and then it came back, and now it's got a remake and it follows the story. So why don't you go first? What's your hot take on some of the series you got?
I would say my hot take is 97% of the anime that have been rebooted have been better. And that's just my opinion. And we can dive deeper into that later, because I have examples of some that are like really bad reboot. Yep. I do have some, but I also have some ones that have been really, really good, and I have my own thoughts and reasoning behind that, but I don't want to get into that right now, because I want to hear your hot take about it, because I think, like I said, 95% of the rebooted anime I think is better than the original from what I've watched.
I would say when it was a beloved title that was given the budget, yes. When it's a beloved title that either the creator has passed away or it was given to a studio that really didn't deserve to have the project, and I'm going to knock on Berserk for that.
That's the one I was going to bring up.
Berserk's been remade twice, and the original is still the best, and the original ain't still that good.
No, I feel that. The original is the best, and it's still mediocre at best.
Yeah. And yeah, if you read the manga itself is just so good.
Literally some of the best storytelling you'll ever read.
And the fact that, spoiler alert for anyone who's never followed Berserk, and if you're an anime fan, what are you doing? It's one of the best animes because the hero doesn't win.
No.
Plot twist. The hero loses.
He still hasn't won.
No,
he still hasn't won. It's like, I know he said we're going to keep... Berserk is going to continue chapters, by the way, every like 4 or 5 months, whatever the studio said they're going to take over.
I thought the mangaka passed away. Or
yeah, so the manga... the author passed away.
Right.
He died. But the studio that he was working with is going to take over so the story can finish.
Do you mean the manga production studio or the anime studio? Because if it's the anime studio, then it's...
The manga production studio.
Okay.
My bad. The ones that he was working closest with, because I know like he was super sick, and at the end he could barely draw, so he's having a lot of people draw for him and write and stuff.
Similar to Robert Jordan with Wheel of Time, then. Give a lot of your notes and hand it off and hope you see through the end.
Right. But so that's just a little side note, but let's get back on track.
My take is, if it's a reboot, it has to be done right. And usually to do it right, you have to look at how the manga ended, which is why a lot of them are done after the manga's finished. If the manga ended and people hated it, it doesn't get remade that way. It goes in a better direction.
Mhm.
Those are few and far between. In fact, I don't think any of the ones on my list follow that synopsis. But then again, I don't have an extensive list. I just added 2 more, so I'm at 15. I just remembered 2 off the top of my head while we were starting up the podcast.
That's fair.
Kimmer, of course, only has 6, but he's 20 years behind me on the manga watching, and most of the reboots and remakes, I watched the originals when they were coming out. So for some people, they don't even know that some of these anime are remakes, right?
Mhm.
And then there are other properties like Cowboy Bebop, which will probably get a full 4K remaster, but I don't think anyone will ever try to remake that or touch it. It's one of those ones that like just don't touch it,
Right.
right? So
So the
first
first
your
one
list?
on I was gonna say first one on my list, and I think it might be one of the most iconic ones is Dragon Ball Z Kai.
Okay.
And I didn't watch all of like the original Dragon Ball, and so I've only watched like a certain part, and I personally liked Kai more.
Yeah.
Obviously, it felt like an actual like action anime. I guess it felt more fluent. I guess like
Mhm.
it made more sense. The original Dragon Ball, like it was really good, but it from what I remember, there was always something different going on. I feel like each episode. And
Well, the problem is that when Dragon Ball Z aired in Japan, not in North America, they were running congruent with the manga because they had done the original Dragon Ball, which was already finished, and then they did Z, and then they caught up to where Akira Toriyama was. And
Mhm.
so instead of having most mangas are 4 or 5 chapters, which equate to 1 episode, they were trying to do 1 episode per chapter. And I could be wrong on that, but that's how it felt with me. So when they did Kai, and supposedly Kai was actually inspired by the Dragon Ball Abridged by Team 4 Star. Shout out to you guys. You guys are fantastic. Was inspired by them because they condensed, they have 70 episodes of Dragon Ball Abridged, which was like 220 episodes of Dragon Ball Z
Mhm.
or whatever the actual number is. And they condensed everything. And so when Kai came out, that's what they tried to do. It's like, oh, well, Frieza says the planet's going to blow up in 5 minutes. When he says that to when the planet actually blows up, I remember counting when I was in high school, it was 13 episodes.
Wow.
That's an awful lot of. Now, it made sense in the very first 1 or 2 episodes because they're fighting so fast that everything's moving in slow motion.
Mhm.
But then they stop to talk.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then he goes, oh, I underestimated this planet's strength. And I'm like, you literally blow up planets for fun. There's no way you of all people is going to muck that up.
No, seriously.
Maybe 10, 20 seconds off. Sure. More than that, no. But Dragon Ball Kai, I think is better. But like most reboots and remakes, and this is a caveat you're going to hear from me throughout the entire episode, there are some very important, not important parts, but fan positive parts that get removed when you do that. Right? So the episode where Goku and Piccolo go get their driver's license, complete filler, complete waste of time. It is a hilarious episode. And if you watch the abridged, you know the Highway to Hiffle song, which is awesome. They do an AC/DC cover of, because Hiffle is hell in Dragon Ball, right? In the North American dub. Home for Infinite Losers, because you're not allowed to say hell on TV. Because 90s anime got censored fucking so hard. But I agree. I mean, overall, Kai is better than Dragon Ball Z, the original run, especially when it comes to the fact that after the atrocious Ocean dub, and then you have the Funimation dub of the English one, they have the English dub actors who I prefer over the Japanese dub for the sole reason that while the lady who voices Goku and has been doing it since day one, she's in her 90s now, I think. I have all the respect for her for being that character for over 40 years or around 40 years. But to me, it never made sense to have her voice him when Goku became an adult.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And and you know, Sean Jamel is just, the man is a beast. He's just a fantastic. He's a voice actor who's gone into directing, producing, all kinds of stuff. But so I prefer the English dub when it comes to Dragon Ball, even though I'm more typically a sub over dub watcher.
I feel that though.
But it's also, those are the voices I grew up with. Even though there's the original Ocean dub, which was where I started, because living in Canada, it was done Ocean dub in Canada. And then when it came across the US, like, no, we need to fix this. So that's kind of a little side story caveat. What's the next one on your list? What do you got next?
My next one is actually Shaman King.
Shaman King.
Shaman King, my bad. I apologize for all the anime watchers. And honestly, I think this one is just as good as the original, in my opinion. I don't think it's better. I don't think
the only difference is the ending.
Exactly. And that's where I'm like, I feel like it was ahead of its time back in the 2000s when it was being dropped. Obviously, I was a kid, like 8 or 9, finding out about this anime. You know what I mean? I'm 10. And it's been years since it's already been out. And so like when I was watching it, I was like, wait, this might be one of the greatest anime of all. Obviously, it's not, because I expanded but when I was there, that's how I felt. It
was one of the best animes in the early 2000s that was on like Fox Kids and all those kinds of channels. I mean, I was already out of high school when it came out, and I enjoyed it. But then, as a fan of Megumi Hayashibara, who, in my opinion, is still the queen of anime, she voices Anna in Shaman King. She did the original and the new one.
Oh, sweet.
And she also sings the cover openings and the endings.
Oh, okay.
She was discovered doing radio in high school, and they're like, oh, we want to have you as a voice actress. And then she went into singing and stuff like that. One of the most prolific anime voices in all of Japan. Like, she's just like creme de la creme. But I mean, that's how I got into Shaman King. And in the end, I really liked the fact that it was a fun series that had a darker undertone, but it never tried to dive. It never tried to dive too deep. Unlike Yu-Gi-Oh, which got censored to hell, so everything was the Shadow Realm.
Fucking hell!
Go to the Shadow Realm. No, that's actually a saw blade that's going to kill you, not send you somewhere.
No, I remember watching the original Japanese release, and because I was like, hey, why don't I give it a shot? And I was like, what am I watching?
Yep.
This is way better. Like, what? Why didn't I get this? And instead we get stuck with the bit.
Yeah. And some of the censorship I can agree with. So like in Pokemon, Ash was eating a rice ball. Most Americans don't know what a rice ball is. So he was eating something else, like a sandwich or something. They changed what it was. I'm okay with little weird things like that because they're cultural difference. That doesn't bother me.
Cultural difference. Yeah, 100%.
But when somebody's doing this and they're clearly holding a cigarette and they just remove the cigarette because smoking is bad, why? Like, I don't get it. As parents, you should be able to tell your kids smoking's bad, don't do it. But most people don't want to parent their kids. But that's off track. Fair. Shaman King, I watched both. I love both. The only thing that I think the original has over the reboot is the music was better.
I can agree to that.
The openings and endings, especially the Japanese ones, were better.
Were super good.
But in the 90s, a lot of bands were signed by record labels who were also producing, like Sony Entertainment would be producing anime, so they'd get bands that they've already signed to write songs for their anime. And then they would release those songs as singles because Japan discovered much sooner than North America did. If you give the nerds what they want, they will spend the money.
X.
So in the 90s, you will find soundtracks that make current anime music pretty much garbage. And yet there are some hidden gems out there. Like, I hate Attack on Titan, but their openings are fucking straight fire. They're so good.
They're so good.
But the anime, I come at me if you want to. I cannot stand Attack on Titan. I'll be glad when it's finally fucking done. They've been on the last season for like 4 years now, and
4 years, so stupid.
yeah. Anyway, again, off track. I'm trying to keep things on track here. I'm trying to stay on the rail.
Right. Got to keep focused on what we're recording.
Okay, so
here.
that one was on my list. That one was that was 6th on my list. So what else you got? What else you got?
I also got Sailor Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Got Sailor Moon. I just for personal enjoyment, I liked the original better.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the newer one was kind of cringe in a way, but I know that it follows the manga better on the newer one.
It's completely faithful.
And it's just, it's just cringy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know that the old school Sailor Moon 2 was a little bit cringy with their but it wasn't as bad as the remake.
Yeah.
And even though that the remake follows the manga faithfully, I still think that the old one is better just because it doesn't feel forced. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the current one that just dropped, it's Great Crystal, right? Crystal, yeah. It's everything just doesn't flow right. I don't know. Everything just seems forced and
that's actually a really reasonable criticism, and I think it's because the studio only had a set budget to do the whole anime, so they ended up kind of mishmashing the pacing. The original one did have an awful lot of filler, and it's kind of sad. And like Kenshin, which is also on my list and also a reboot remake, when the dub stopped in America, the whole next arc that did get animated in Japan is like the best part of the whole series of the original run. In Kenshin's case, the original series was filler, and then the last episode that they did literally kicks off the next arc, which is the best Kenshin arc, and it's also like 13 volumes long.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the main head of the story. It's the meat of the story. And because they dicked around with filler so much, everybody's like, I don't want to watch it anymore. So they canceled it. And a lot of animes suffered from that, where they caught up to the manga and they had to wait, and they had filler, and it ended up being shit.
Naruto, One Piece,
Hunter x Hunter.
One Piece wasn't
Fairy
as
Tail.
bad for the filler, though, at least.
Hey,
and even with the filler, they tried to connect it to the storyline, and I know they tried to do that in like Bleach and also like Naruto and stuff, but like they connected it more in One Piece. And I'm not even trying to say that as just a One Piece stan. It's just
One Piece's world allows it.
Yeah,
you can just invent a random island and go, beach paradise island only, bikinis only. Like, okay, right?
True.
The only anime I've ever seen, just to off topic before we get back on topic, that has a great answer to filler is Gintama.
Yes.
And they actually have a clip. You can look it up on YouTube. Just say Gintama filler. It's like maybe a minute and a half long, where it's like sometimes you follow the storyline. Sometimes you catch up to the manga and you need to deviate. And sometimes you want to catch up to the manga, but you got to have filler. So you go this way and that way and this way. And then when the manga is ready, you catch up to the manga again. And he's like, that's what we call filler. And here at Gintama, we love doing really silly things.
No, that anime is a masterpiece, man. Masterpiece.
It has no right being as good as it is.
No, it
really doesn't.
It really doesn't.
But getting back on track, let's talk about Kenshin, because that's the one we just brought up. Now Sailor Moon, I have no criticisms about it because the new one is one of the most beautifully animated series I've seen in a long time. The background, the foreground, the character designs, everything just looks so crisp and clean. Like they handled it. So from an animations perspective, like it's fucking fantastic. I mean, you can't compare with early 90s anime anyway, but the pacing was probably the only criticism, and I'll give you that. Like I genuinely think the original is better. And not only that, I mean, the original theme song, both in English and Japanese, is iconic.
So good.
But let's hit Kenshin. Now Kenshin, Kenshin, when that was rebooted, I was surprised because of everything about the creator. I've seen a lot of wrong information. I've seen a lot of reported information. I'm not going to get into it. I am literally just be like, you know what? I'm going to like it. I like the series. I like the story. Don't know what to tell you. It's like for people who go and watch TV shows now that their favorite actor has been canceled, but they still love the TV show. You know, like Seinfeld.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the Kramer guy got his mouth opened up. But people still go back and watch it. And for me, that's kind of what I'm doing. And in the end, too, all the people who work on the show are the reason I support it.
True. They need to get paid too.
Well, and not only that, I mean, in Kenshin's instance, so far from what's been released, they have done a fantastic job of adapting the manga, making it feel right. And I know a lot of people were complaining they didn't bring back the original voice actors. The problem with that is you can't have the original cast when some of them have already passed away. Right?
That is true.
So finding a sound alike, especially for Saito, who is like the original voice actor, I hope they find someone who's done him justice. He was so good at that character. The animation is crisp. The animation is clean. Now it's currently airing, so we don't know if they're going to fuck up at some point.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody who has read the manga multiple times, I own the manga. I have all the volumes downstairs. It's so good. It's so faithful. And they've cleaned up a lot of the mishaps, and the choreography and the fight scenes are fantastic because in the 90s, they didn't have the budget to do fight scenes. So, you know, they're sitting there swinging their swords and, you know, the flash of light and sparks when the swords collide and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
In the 90s one, it was literally just somebody smiling and little flashes of light for sword flickers. And I'm like, these are some of Kenshin's most important fights. Like, why are they not animated? Obviously, it's budget and everything like that. Having said that, the opening to Kenshin and the end, well, the ending's okay. The opening to Kenshin feels like it should be for like, I don't know, Bleach or some modern anime, not a samurai anime. It doesn't fit. The original openings, the original soundtrack for Kenshin are so good. I actually own the CDs. I've bought them.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Now, well, actually, that's a lie. I don't own them anymore because mold and flooding and stuff.
Life.
But they were worth buying at the time when I could have access to them. I probably could find them, but I'll just go on Spotify.
It's there. Everything's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all that stuff now.
Exactly.
You can find it anywhere.
My brain still thinks that because I bought it, I own it, even though I lost
That's fair.
probably like 90% of my CD collection. But Kenshin's music in the original one was really good. And then the entire anime up to the end of the Shishio saga follows the manga faithfully. That's where they caught up to the manga. And then it goes into 2 really awful arcs. The one after Shishio is bad because it's just very poorly told. It has some really, really, really good moments, but that's about it. And then the arc after that is so bad. That's when viewers were turning out. Like he was fighting European knights for no reason.
Yeah, I know that I never finished the original series.
Mhm.
And so I've only, from what I've watched at the beginning on both of them, because obviously there's only a certain amount of episodes out for
Right.
the remake right now. That's currently, is this still dropping?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah,
They're going to go for like a lot of episodes, right? Or is it going to be the 24?
I think it's going to be 12, then a break, then another 12. That seems to be what they're doing now. But my understanding is that they've been commissioned to do the whole series. And I think, and I could be wrong, I seem to recall reading it's going to be 56 episodes.
50, I think I remember seeing something like that too.
Because I think it's going to be 26 leading into the Shishio saga and then into Anishi after that. But the question there remaining is, are they going to go back and do the origin story properly? Because the OVA, they just kind of breeze through it.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of need to know that to know more about the last arc. So it's kind of important.
Yeah, so I personally am really enjoying the newer one.
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic.
I will agree, though, the music is definitely better in the original, and I feel like if that's the case with a lot of the animes, though, is the music was always better back then.
Well,
And
now it feels like they just get anyone to write a song and say, "Here you go." Having said that, on the music front, and it's not a remake or reboot, Skeleton Knight in Another World, that isekai blew me away. For an overpopulated genre, that one was like one of the best animes in the last year that I've seen, even though it's an isekai. And the opening is done by a guy they found on YouTube. I think he's
oh,
from
really?
Brazil or something. And the opening is one of the best openings I've seen in years. It's so good.
I might have to go try. I might have to go look into it then.
100% recommend it, and it's 12 episodes.
Oh, it's only
It-
12? I could
yeah.
finish that in a day.
It's a little fan servicey, but again, if the anime knows what it is, I'm okay with that. And this anime definitely knows what it is. It even has disclaimers based on the beginning of the episode of some of the more mature content that's happening in that episode, because it's a trigger warning, because they're realizing that, hey, can't really talk about this in a cartoon because people get offended.
Yeah, I wish I
Right,
would have
so-
had a. I really wish I would have had a disclaimer before I watched first episode of Goblin Slayer. I will say that.
Yep.
But I don't want to get too off topic on that because
Okay.
that's a whole different story.
No, I agree. But in terms of music, that opening is a banger. It's so good.
Okay, I'm going to check that out then.
What do you got next? You should have like 2 left, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna save one of them for last,
last,
because
The big
I wanna
one.
talk a few more.
If you haven't
big
figured out
one.
which one the big one is, that's the last one, and we're gonna have a real big conversation on that.
I got Hunter x Hunter, and I never finished the original.
Right.
I'll say that, but I did watch at least half. The newer one's way better. The newer one's way better.
The newer one is better in every respect. And yet I don't like Hunter x Hunter. It's not a story for me, which is kind of weird because I love Yu Yu Hakusho. So you'd think that I would gravitate to Hunter x Hunter. Something about Hunter x Hunter I don't like. I watched the first season of the original, and I watched probably about half the first season of the new one. And from what I've seen of clips of both and all these things, even the music is better in the new one. Like, it has a really good soundtrack that suits the vibe. I don't know why I don't vibe with it, but I agree. I think the new one is by far and away better.
Yeah, and I think the animation's better. I think the voice acting is better. I think that I just wish they didn't end it where they did. I think that the overall flow of the anime, other than the last arc, some of that they dragged that last arc on way too long.
Everybody I've seen speak negatively of it. They all talk about, we don't talk about the last season.
And it's like, hey, it sucks because it should be the best arc,
Should be.
but they just dragged it too long. And this is kind of like side topic. I remember one more, so I actually still have 2 more.
All right, then fire away.
I don't want to talk about Hunter x Hunter too much because everyone knows that one. Trigun Stampede.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot
It's also on my
that
list.
that was a remake and a reboot of the original.
And the new version is shit.
Yeah.
And I do know that there are some people out there who are like, oh, I love Vash's new design. He looks awful.
I don't mind the design, I guess. It's just they could have done better animation than CGI.
Oh,
shit.
the background foreground stuff is awful. That's Berserk syndrome right there. Berserk was worse.
So this one, I like the original.
Oh yeah. And the music for the original?
Yes. And I couldn't finish watching the reboot. It's just the graphics was too.
Well, not only that, you got rid of Millie.
Yeah. It's just
and
I
she's
couldn't do it.
Oh, my wife and I sat and watched the first episode, and we're sitting there with our jaws open, like, what did they do? And then we watched the second episode, and we're like, And yet, for people who are just being introduced to the Trigun world, I can see why they like it, but it is very tailored to the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they tell Knives right, it might be worth the watch, but from what I've seen, does not even come close to the original. Not even close.
No. But yeah, I just think that if they didn't do the CGI, I think if they would have done normal basic animation, it could have been at least in an argument to be better and be good.
And that's the problem with a lot of these newer studios that have popped up in recent years. Like Berserk was the one I was mentioning. When Full Metal Panic came back, first of all, they had a recap episode 5 episodes in a 12 episode season, which just boggled my mind. But the animation, it's like, oh, well, it's a mecha anime, so we're going to have CGI the mech, but it doesn't look good with the animation that they're doing. And I'm like, you guys had clean, awesome animation with the first 2.5 seasons. Like, what do you guys, like, I know it's been well over 10 years. Maybe that studio doesn't exist anymore, but why would you change so much as a continuation?
And
right?
It sucks because a lot of these good animes are just getting ruined.
Better. They deserve better.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the animation really makes things suffer, and the new Trigun animation doesn't work. If you're going to go CG, go full CG. If you're going to go traditional animation, go traditional animation.
Go full. It's kind of bullshit.
And then if you're going to go full CG, look at Berserk as a case study for what not to do.
Of what not to do. Facts. I don't know what
the newest Berserk is so poor. Like it's unwatchable.
No, it is. It's not
so
good
bad.
at all. If you actually sit through and watch the new Berserk, then I'm going to need you to send me your
actively watching,
information.
not in the background.
Yeah, no, I'm going to need you to send me your information so I can sign you up for a mental, because that's exactly where you need to be. Because what the do you have any more that you want to talk about first?
Oh, I've got,
because I don't have any more.
I have plenty.
I know we want to save one more, but I don't know how much I'll be able to talk about the other ones. But
I'm going to start off with one where the reboot is 100% better than the original, except for the ending song, and that's Hellsing.
Okay. See, I was going to bring up Hellsing. I just haven't watched the new one yet.
The Hellsing Ultimate is basically like, if you watch Hellsing, you're like, oh, this is a pretty cool anime. Like, it's not bad. It's good.
Right.
And then if you watch Hellsing Ultimate, you're like, was this produced by HBO? What is this insane quality and attention to detail? The only problem was, if you were watching it when it was coming out, you were only getting 1, maybe 2 episodes a year.
Oh.
It took, and it's 10 episodes plus 3 episode prequel that they did with Walter and Alucard. But it took about 10 years for the entire anime to come out. Jesus. However, you sit down and you watch all 10 hours or 13 hours, whatever it is. Every hour episode, it's just like an HBO show. It doesn't feel like it's been an hour. It feels like it's been 4 hours of just like perfection. It is so good. Now, I prefer the sub over the dub. I think a lot of the dubbers went a little too ham with their voices. Not bad, but it's watchable in both. But Hellsing Ultimate, 100% better than the original, except actually the opening is pretty iconic. But I like having Mr. Big shine as the ending. That was a fun song. For those of you who don't know Mr. Big, their bass player, Billy Sheenan, he is huge in Japan. And he actually works with tons of Japanese artists and stuff like that. So that I think they at the time they were on Sony's recording contract, if I remember correctly. But definitely get that one checked out. Evangelion is the next reboot on my list.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
I will
seen that yet.
Flat out admit I have not watched the remake. And from what I've heard, it's just as embarrassing as the original. And the original, okay, so for me, the original I loved. I had an Evangelion t-shirt. I was buying all the VHSs, because yes, I'm that old. I was buying all the VHSs when they came out. Excited to get the last VHS with the last 2 episodes on it.
Wow. Really?
Those last 2 episodes on volume 13 of the VHS. Not only did they leave me asking what the fuck is going on, pissed me off because, and this is in the 90s, they were $45 for 2 episodes.
2 episodes, yeah.
Okay. And one of the episodes was a wavy line of Shinji talking to himself. Because the creator, like, I originally thought that they ran out of budget. Turns out the creator was so mad with everybody telling him how it should end, all these things, that he literally said fuck you to everybody and wrote this wacky ending. And then they did the end of Evangelion, which makes no sense. And then they did Death and Rebirth, which makes even less sense. And they're like, okay, 15 years later, let's reboot it. And then take 10 years to do that. And still everyone's like, what the fuck?
Right.
So it's an amazing anime up till episode 20, 22. And then after that, it doesn't exist as far as my brain's concerned. But I was so angry at that last episode, the last VHS tape, that I never attempted to watch the re-release. That's how mad I was. I attempted rewatching Hunter x Hunter for our Anime Rumble. And I didn't like Hunter x Hunter originally. Right? So I'm not one of those people who can't watch things, but that was just like, nope, I'm out.
Right.
So I'm just going to say they're both trash, which kind of sucks because they actually have a really, really cool premise. But it is what it is. So I'm going to go through just a couple here. Have you ever heard of Devilman?
Devilman. That's
Netflix.
The name. The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Netflix has one. It's called Devilman Crybaby. Came out a few years ago.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I know then.
Yeah. So that's a remake of multiple Devilman series from the 70s and 80s. And I think there's even one in the 90s. And if you like the God versus Devil thing, it's a good anime. If you don't, you don't. I just don't like the character designs. I find them very bland. But that's a remake where most, I would say most current anime fans who are not over the age of 45 like Devilman Crybaby. Those who are older hate it. It's one of those kind of generational things. Baki is another one. Baki's been remade a couple of times.
Oh, has it? I didn't even know that. I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought Baki was like a newer one that's been dropping.
No.
That's kind of crazy.
No. Baki is. I've never watched it. A friend of mine who absolutely loves Baki says that the new one is actually really, really good. So I'm just gonna take his word for it. That's why it's just a quick little Cliff's note, just as a have you seen it? Let's see here. What else we got? Star Blazers. Oh, Star Blazers. So as a kid growing up on Macross, Transformers, a lot of those really late 70s, early 80s anime. And yes, Transformers is an anime. It was done by Marvel Japan, so get off my back. If you look at all those kinds of era of cartoons that did come over, you'll find Galaxy Express 999, which is also a remake by the same artist. I think it's the same universe too, if I'm not mistaken. But Star Blazers is the one that I hold fondest. Captain Harlock is another one, same artist, same animation studio. I can't remember. These are all in the same vein. Star Blazers is like if you took a battleship, the sea ship Yamato, and put it in space, dug a hole in the front, and have it be a giant cannon. That's literally what it is. And the aliens are blue. That's it.
Just blue?
Just blue. The remake is actually really well done. It lacks the charm of the original, and that might just be my nostalgia talking. But the new one is actually really good. The new Captain Harlock is really good. I have not watched the last version of Galaxy Express 999. I should. I'll put that on my list. But the new version of Star Blazers is really good. If you like old school space anime, like space opera anime,
yeah,
and you're tired of Gundam, Star Blazers is it.
Okay.
It's not giant. It's not giant mechs. It's boats and planes in space.
Okay, I'll have to put that on my list then.
Yeah. What else do we got here? Okay, so I'm gonna go off on one and then another one. So first is Ushio and Tora. Do you even know what that
I,
is? Oh,
no, I don't, brother.
okay. So the original Ushio Tora was good, but it was short. It was very poorly paced for what was released, especially in
Mhm.
North America because they only released the first 3 episodes. I had to wait years to go and watch the original anime, or the rest of it. The remake is so good. The animation is crisp. The music is fantastic. The voice acting is so good.
Okay.
It's a think Shaman King with violence.
Shaman King. Oh,
So
okay.
Tora is he's a tiger spirit, and they're
Hmm.
going to find oh God, what's the name of the bad guy? It's a really unique name, and it's actually voiced by Megumi Hayashibara, who I referenced earlier. Oh no, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll remember it, but it's a fantastic anime. It's 13 episodes. Absolutely worth your time. 100%.
Okay.
The next one is one of my all-time favorite animes. And the remake was done in the 90s.
Oh
And,
shit.
or sorry, the reboot, because it wasn't a remake, it was a reboot. And that's Bubblegum Crisis. Now, in the 80s, there was a lot of cyberpunk anime. Most people are familiar with Akira.
Right. I know Akira.
Bubblegum Crisis and Bubblegum Crash, the original animation, is about 4 women who are vigilantes in power suits fighting the Genom Corporation, who supplied the world with AI machines to rebuild after the big earthquake in Japan. So there's a big
Mhm.
earthquake, everything got destroyed. Genom stepped in, built all these robots to clean everything up, and they have cybernetic parts. The problem is a lot of these AIs become self-aware and they begin attacking
Mhm.
people. They
Oh
begin
shit. Like
assimilating with
iRobot
technology.
type shit.
Yeah, but cooler. Um,
Oh, okay.
and they assimilate with other technology, and so the Night Sabers, which is what they're called, go for and they kill all these robots while fighting Genom. One of the main characters, Pris, she's a rock singer, and the reboot in the 90s was actually really good. It's Bubblegum Crisis 2040. Similar premise, completely different voice actors, everything. The story itself is actually really well told, but Bubblegum Crisis and Crash, the original 80s versions, is better. And I'll tell you why. Because back in the 80s and the early 90s, the voice cast also used to do their own music. So the
Oh,
entire
really?
voice cast of the Bubblegum Crisis and Crash team also released the soundtrack and the music for the anime.
Hmm.
And so,
That's
like
actually super interesting.
Pris being written as a singer, she's actually the singer of the band, both in the anime and outside of the anime. And
Hmm.
it
That's
is
actually really cool.
it's very synth poppy. It is very 80s, and it's so good. Highly recommend. Mad Machine is probably the most common one that people know. And the opening for 2040 is actually really good. Again, for whatever reason, in the 80s and 90s, they seem to really care about the scores of the openings and endings. Whether it was a marketing thing, whether it was a passion thing, I'm never sure. But that's one that I actually got on Blu-ray as a remaster because they've remastered the 80s one in high def, and it's so good. If you like cyberpunk, it leaves you wanting more, but it was released as an OVA, so it was based on budget and all that kind of stuff, right? So a lot of
Mhm.
anime suffered from that. You look at Tenchi Moyu, and the first 12 episodes came out in about a year and a half, and then something happened with Pioneer, and then you didn't get any episodes for like 4 years. You got like 3, and then it was like another 10 or 15 years, and all of a sudden they just started continuing it. So I caught up with it, and then they're like, "Oh, you need to watch this next," and I'm like, "Who the hell are these people?" "Oh, well, you have to go watch all the spin-off series that are absolute shit to find out who these people are." Why are you tying in the spin-off series? What are you guys doing? Tenchi Moyu could also be considered a remake because they had Tenchi Moyu Ryo-Oki. Then they did Tenchi Universe, which is a TV series. They also
Mhm.
did Tenchi in Tokyo, which was fucking terrible. That was a spin-off, as well as Galaxy Police, and then I stopped watching all of the spin-offs. I was just like, what are you guys doing? And then last but not least, before we go into the really big one, oh no, we've covered all of them. I've talked about all of them.
Let's get into the big one then.
All right, the big one, as I'm sure all of you can guess, is Full Metal Alchemist. And that, yes, that is a very lazy attempt at doing the promo cards in Brotherhood.
Yeah, it's definitely the most common one, the most talked about one.
It is the most popular one because the original one made it onto the airwaves during the Toonami era. So a lot of people were aware of the original. And then when Brotherhood came out, everyone's like, oh, it's so much better. Now, the other thing about Full Metal Alchemist is it is very contentious with people who see the deep-seated, how can I say this without getting demonetized? Political issues of alignments based on the past during tragic parts of history. The country in which it takes place is very militaristic fascist, if you want a clue into what I'm referencing. So it does rub people a lot the wrong way. And some of those people cannot stand when anime fans talk about it.
Right.
We're going to talk about it. I'm not going to get into any of the political stuff. I'm literally just weighing it. Is the remake better than the original? The answer is, as a whole, yes. With
Agreed.
3 glaring flaws. But first, I want to hear what you have to say about it.
I personally really like the remake more than the original.
Mm-hmm.
I like how it didn't, everything in the original felt forced and rushed compared to the remake, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's understandable. They were on a 50-week cycle. They had to pump out an episode every week.
Yeah, so you were able to flesh some things out, build a story, build some character on some people, build relationships with characters and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I think they did it really well. Obviously, if you haven't seen it, RIP to my boy. You know, it's just, is it raining right now? Is it? Because, yeah, I think it is raining inside. But that's just my opinion. I know there's definitely some they could have done better in not making, I feel like Edward feels like he felt more of a little kid in the newer one, like in the remake, than compared to the remastered or the original. I feel like
he doesn't feel like someone who is forced to grow up for his mistakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just one of those, he knows he did something wrong, but he's still a kid about everything. But in the original, he was like, nah, I gotta grow up. I realized I fucked up bad. Now I need to fight and get everything back type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like he did that in the remake. Don't get me wrong. It just didn't seem as more serious than the original, I guess.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. So
that's just my opinion.
From my take, Brotherhood is better than the original. 3 different things. Number 1, the way they handled Hohenheim, not father, Hohenheim, in the original, I felt was much better.
I agree.
The way they handled him in Brotherhood, I felt like they underutilized him and then tried to shoehorn him in the last arc.
See,
right?
And that's where I'm talking about. It just doesn't feel serious. It just felt, just, you know what I mean? It didn't have that serious factor of what it needed to be the original. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's alchemy. People are dying, bro. You just lost your mom and your brother's body and shit. Like, you know what I mean? It just didn't seem that. Yeah. I definitely agree with that for sure.
So, and then, I mean, there are some other characters too that were better in Brotherhood, that were worse in the original, and vice versa, and all that stuff. Number 2, and I said this at the beginning of the episode, the music. The openings and endings to the original series are superior to every opening and ending in Brotherhood. I don't care what you say. Come and fight me because I'm right.
You're going to have to fight me too because I'm standing right behind him on that one.
Larkin CL, I mean, come on. Dude, it doesn't get much better than that.
And that does go back to our, like you said, our point of the older anime does have better music. Yep. Don't get me wrong. There is a few openings in for current sure anime that are there's quite a bit that are super good, but they don't have remakes. You know what I mean? No. And so they can have their own individual. I feel like the remakes, they tried to copy their old music. You know what I mean? That old theme.
Well, they
just couldn't do it.
They ended up trying to appeal to a newer audience by adding too much electronica rather than this is a shonen anime. So rock is the vibe you want to go with. Mm-hmm. If it was futuristic and they were like, you know, building motorcycles and shit like that with their alchemy, I could understand the techno vibe. Now, I am not saying that Brotherhood's music is bad. It's actually really good for modern era anime. But in comparison to the original series, it's like night and day.
No, seriously.
You can't even compete. The final thing on Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood that they did dirty is the most important thing of the entire series. And what's that?
All the manga?
No, they followed the manga. There's something there's something the original series did better that literally defines the entire, after that event, it defines the entire series.
True. I think if I'm thinking of the correct thing.
What is it?
Is it when Bro dies? They kind of just like, they have an episode or two of their sad, but in the other one, they carry that shit throughout the entire anime, don't they?
They did Major Hughes dirty. And the reason for it is, yes, they were following the manga. But in the original series, if you watch it, so in Brotherhood, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, he dies around episode 10.
And yeah.
You don't care about him.
No.
In the original series, he dies on episode 40.
Yeah.
After you've got to know him, you've got to know his family, you've got to know his relationship with Edward and Alphonse. You've gotten to see why he was so important to Mustang. You've gotten to see why he was so revered by everybody that he touched.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see why Mustang is so broken over it. This man wasn't his comrade. This was his best friend. Mm-hmm. This was as close to a brother as Mustang would ever get.
Facts.
And if you watch the original one, just up to that point, it will break you.
Yeah, 100%.
It will 100% break you.
Oh, I definitely.
In Brotherhood, episode 10, you're like, oh, that's sad. And then you move on.
Bro died. Yeah, exactly. You just don't really, that doesn't really sit with you. You know what I
And
mean?
it is such a pivotal event in the story that it needed to be done right. And it was done in the right place at the story, but the actual attachment to the event was done dirty.
Right.
And I will never not say that. But overall, the animation's better, the story is better, the pacing is better. But those three things are my major gripes with Brotherhood over the original.
I could respect those for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't have any disagreements to that at all.
Oh, I did miss one on my list.
Oh, what is it?
Fruits Basket.
I've never watched the original, and I just actually started watching the newer one. So,
well, the original one ends on a very sweet note, but it is quite literally the middle of the story. And I'm pretty sure it's because they caught up to the manga and then they just stopped. The new series, I have not finished it. My wife is a huge fan of it. She absolutely loves it. And she says that the new series is it's better than the original. She just misses the voice actor of Shigure from the original one because apparently she loved his voice.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm gonna have to check it out then. I'm gonna have to finish it then.
Believe it or not, two guys here, we both watch shoujo anime.
We do.
We both like good anime. It's not a question of genre.
Good anime. No, I don't care about
I
genre.
will preach Wotakoi as the best shoujo anime I've ever fucking seen. Until something better comes along, if that. My Dress Up Darling came close.
True. My Dress Up Darling was so good.
I can't wait for season 2. I'm so excited for that.
I cannot wait for season 2. That show is so good.
Well, season 1 was only the first 4 volumes, and it's like 17 or 20 volumes.
Whoa.
So there's more to come. If they stay on it. Oh, it's good.
I hope it's really good. I recommend everyone to please go watch that. Please.
Shout out to Amelie or Monarch if you watch her stuff on Twitch. She does a lot of anime English covers. She also does the voice of oh gosh, I just had her name from Dress Up Darling, the main character. What's her name? Starts with an M. Wow. Failure EXE. But shout out to her. She does a fantastic job. The English dub actually is really well done. I still prefer the Japanese dub, but that's
Marin.
Thank you.
Marin.
I knew it started with an M.
I had to look it up too because I was like, Marin, Margaret. Yeah. I had to look it up too. I was struggling.
And as an underdog introvert nerd myself, like high school me would have been like, I relate to this so much. Now I just need to find my Marin.
No, I feel that. But I don't want to get into that.
So
we could say
I know there's a bunch. I mean, I even remembered a few during the podcast. Shout out to all of my Star Blazers, Galaxy. Well, actually, I had Star Blazers, but Galaxy 999, Captain Harlock. So I want to know: do you guys like reboots? Do you like remasters? Like, what do you guys think? Do you think that you can compare them honestly? Are there some of them that are shit from the beginning and shit at the end? Do you have ones that are your favorites because the newer ones are just better? I mean, feel free to leave a comment below. Maybe did we miss some? I can guarantee you we're going to talk after this podcast and we're going to be like, oh,
totally forgot about this one. Or totally forgot about this one.
Well, One Piece has been remastered like 6 times.
Yeah, I mean, technically it has. Yeah, what they've done is they shorten up into like kind of short movies for each arc. So if you guys are interested, definitely do not go watch those. They're terrible. I watched the first one and I was like, this is actually terrible. I cannot believe I just sat through this.
It actually cuts out the soul. Yep. Which,
like it,
as I said last episode, I was surprised with live action because they managed to keep the soul of the series there.
Yes. You can't do that in.
And Mihawk, so
whatever you do not watch those recap movies if you want to catch up on one. Please do not. You are much better going to YouTube and looking up someone explaining to you what happened in the arc, because I promise you, you're going to watch it and you're going to be confused as fuck.
What you're going to do is you're going to listen to it dubbed, unless you're a really fast reader like I am. You're going to load it up on Netflix on your computer, and you're going to run it at 1.5 speed. So every episode is only 13 minutes.
True.
And then you will catch up in less than 30 days. Still take you a long ass fucking time, but if you're ever pressed for time and you want to carrot, that's generally do it. Hit the browser and speed it up to 1.5 times.
Well, there you go, guys. If you guys wanted to watch One Piece and catch up in less than 30 days, there you go.
Yep. So for all of you guys who have been following us, thank you for that. Please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all that fun peddling stuff. As usual, our socials will be down below. Feel free to check us out, give us a shout. And if you need anything, please just let us know. Got a topic, got an anime we want to cover. I definitely want to get into some more anime. I've been playing Path of Exile, so I haven't been watching a whole lot of anything. I've been sleeping on that game. I tried it a couple of years ago. couldn't get into it. And then a couple weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to like get past the first town. So I put 4 hours into it. Now my brother and I are just like, super nerd modes. Oh yeah. I should be streaming it. I probably will, but I mean, feel free to just let us know what you guys want to talk about. I mean, hey, maybe next time we should do movies, like legitimate pop culture movies.
I'm with that.
Like, do you guys want to do like franchises? Do you guys like tell us what you want to do?
Whatever you guys want to do, we'll sit here and chop it up about.
Do you want us to shit on your favorite franchise?
We can do that too.
One of the things Kimmer and I have is if we both like it, I automatically become the bad guy by default. So even if it's like something so beloved, I'll be the evil asshole. So if we hit up on our Anime Rumble, one of our co-hosts is a huge Naruto fan. I like Naruto. I was thinking about some solid arguments to destroy the world that is Naruto if we ever have to get into a real fight on Rumble. I'm excited for it. Oh, and keep an eye out for the next Anime Rumble. We are planning it. Unfortunately, schedules being what they are when you have more people become more problematic. And we are doing our best to kind of iron that out. But we will see you in the next one. And you have fun. Stay frosty and enjoy your anime.
Peace.